Hello, welcome back to the Brother Slim for another Into the Unknown project update. Today for Aeon Trespass Odyssey, the Sins of Heracles. So, we're on GameFound today because for some reason the photos on Kickstarter didn't load. So out of curiosity, let me know if you have a favorite. My assumption is Kickstarter, it's where the campaign was, it's where all the backers comment too. So probably go back to that after, but fun little deviation to GameFound for today. Update 61, 69 on Kickstarter though, so very nice. Also, this update is posted on the original Aeon Trespass Odyssey campaign rather than the new one, so I think they put it on the wrong campaign by mistake. But 69 on Kickstarter, so very nice indeed. New Air and Wrestler Titans, Urfather Miniature, Minos' Reach, Stymphalium Stormfront Spotlight, Stormrunners, Horned Raptor, Boss Hierarchy, and ... I think this name is actually slightly different than the Kickstarter one too. Hey guys and gals, this update will be a little bit shorter than usual, as I am, well, on vacation. However, the schedule must be kept, the news must flow, and there's exciting stuff to share. Let's get into it. Well-deserved vacay for Marcin, good stuff. This looks kind of like a carcass delve, maybe, just looking at the art here. I don't know what they're on, but there's people going inside of it, there's normal-sized people, and titans. Final Antios Titan, the Wrestler. Over the past updates, we've unveiled a fair bit of primordial reworks. The one for Ladon was special, in that the tree dragon got replaced by an entirely new creature, the Final Antios, and he liked it. However, it still left one question unanswered. What about the tree jumper titan? What indeed? I couldn't leave it as it was, could I? They were tied to Ladon from their mechanics all the way up to their mohawk helm. Wouldn't do. However, I very much liked the feel of the titan. The shape, the girth. The girth was important. So, when it came to imagining a new titan for Antios, I decided to channel that fabulous energy into the Wrestler. I hope you like it. You can pretty much guess their abilities, but what about their Pyre-issued Cyclops Forged Gauntlet? What about the cape? Too much? Okay, interesting. So this is again like something to do with Antios. I don't know if it's in mythological history or not. It has something to do with like regrowth and greenery. As you can see by this weird little skeletal arm and greenery coming out of it and around it. I don't know, man. I think I preferred the tree jumper more. It's just more full of character. Like there's a lot of fun character stuff going on here, but the tree jumper was just such a pot-bellied, dynamic fellow leaping for joy. And Take My Strong Arm kind of reminds you of like Attack on Titan a little bit, so maybe that's some of the inspiration. Doesn't do it as much for me, but like still cool, just not as cool if you ask me. The Air reimagined. Likewise, we had to touch up the Urfather Titan, the Air. This rework is much more subtle, as we liked the general feel of the original. We just wanted to have all the new attributes in place. I don't know, I kind of feel like that's a miss personally. I really liked the previous Air, and while maybe the heraldic banner behind them or her wouldn't really suit the new one, this just feels way more like, we'll have to see a sculpt first too, this is just the art piece, but like it feels way more generic in my mind. Yeah, I don't necessarily love that. This guy's whatever, he's cool, that's fine, but the Air I like less, judging from that art at least. Urfather Miniature. And speaking of your father, last time we unveiled the new illustration, now's the time to show how the miniature is shaping up. Though still work in progress, it's one of my favorites. Yeah, that looks freaking sick. So where the Air Titan, slash is it actually a Titan, seems like a bit of a miss in my mind. It's just way less evocative, and like this could just be any Titan in my mind. This looks freaking sick. Like this is the epitome of Greek mythology and godhood. Like could basically be Zeus rather than Heracles, and I mean that in a really good way. It looks like, is that someone who's gonna eat there too? Creepy. Small Parasite update. Some eagle-eyed backers noticed something strange going on with the back of the Lernian Parasite rework. Well, that something was it being work in progress. Now we can show you the intent more clearly. The parasites bonding the unfortunate whale, practically breaking it in half. Yeah, it is that, but I'm assuming it's that weird twisted piece in the center. Yeah, super gross, but a little bit less gross than the elephant was. So this is still an improvement in my mind. By the way, with the Lernian Parasite reworks comes, you guessed it, a touched up to the Croaker Titan. That one isn't quite ready, so keep your eyes peeled for the next update. Just going back to, man, like, yep, this is sweet. I love this. I don't love this. Like, it just does not seem... I don't know all the lore and all that stuff all that well. Like, I know what basis, like the basics of it and such, but for what they're going with, I just don't. But this just feels just so generic compared to what the original Air looked like. So yeah, definitely a miss in my mind. Do love this though, but yeah, don't love that. Anyways, I've repeated that a few times, so onwards we go. Beanos's Reach map. I'm very aware of showing progress with the new maps. There's only so many times I can sneak in obvious spoilers under your noses. Skyward Odyssey, I'm looking at you. But I wanted to share this little fragment from the new Minos' Reach map, aka Thera, aka Island very close to Crete. On one hand, doing 12 distinct maps instead of 5 is quite challenging. On the other, the number of unique biomes, along with the new journey paradigm, let me introduce more unique travel mechanics. For example, Minos' Reach will feature long one-way routes, simulating you hitching a ride in someone else's ship, as well as restricting zones where only the truly mad or brave captains would venture into, a result of the recent volcanic activity on Thera, perhaps. Primordial Spotlight. Stymphalian Stormfront. Now's the time to talk more about the most menacing of the summer threat primordials. More on that below. The Stormfront is unique in oh so many ways. The Stymphalian campaign takes a few Lovecraftian turns, mostly thanks to the utter alienating, fascinating nature of the Stormfront, an unfathomable being most similar to the Chimera of Cycle 2, but somehow even more terrifying and foreboding. I think this is just the exact same sculpt, but it looks more polished. This might be the first time we've seen it away from the original campaign, where everything was just kind of like too light gray and not enough definition, so it looks a little bit different from that. They could have also touched it up a little bit though, but looks cool. Little death skull chickens. Okay, picking lice is an attack, which is a level 1, 2 dice, 8+ to dodge, Titan on vantage point, closest Titan. That's a fun play, picking on lice, and it's picking off the Titans, I like that. Bird of Prey, level 2 attack, 3 dice, 9+ to dodge, furthest Titan, 2 danger, 2 tokens on something Swarm, and the Storm comes. Level 3 attack, 3 dice, 10+. Cool stuff. Love all the art as usual. As mentioned, and unlike the Chimera, the Stormfront is the strongest of the summer-based primordials. Its power and AT creep into Cycle 2 territory, but think of all the powerful gear you could craft from it, and its mechanics are arguably the most interesting of the 3. Firstly, it uses a wind direction mechanic via the Trauma Deck, which not only dictates its movement patterns, but in some cases also helps or hinders Titans, especially the Storm Ruler. You'll learn soon, and learn to dread, the term Windward. Rows of Storms. At the start of the battle, draw the top minor trauma card, then place the wind direction marker on the Rows of Storms diagram in such a way that its direction corresponds to the arrow shown in the lower left corner of the trauma card. This is the current wind direction. At the start of the Titan round, draw a new minor trauma card and change the wind direction accordingly. Very interesting. Secondly, the main swarm is a giant ponderous beast. Its Scud Swarm are not. That's right, the Stormfront battle is the first Aeon Trespass clash with multiple primordials. The Stormfront can divide into smaller swarms and send them forth to harass and pick off Titans. This is done by splitting the main BP deck into additional BP stacks, almost like KF mobs, all commanded by the hive mind of their giant progenitor. The Scud Swarms just sounds kind of gross. Represent I'm curious what Scud is, like what the word means, if it's referenced to birds or storms. An interesting tactical challenge. It may be more advantageous to attack the main body, but if you let them multiply, you may allow the BP deck to get depleted, and that will lead to an automatic defeat. Interesting. As you know what the truly terrifying thing is, and you know what the truly And you know what the truly terrifying thing is? When a Scud Swarm is killed, its body fossilizes into a sea of shapeless statue terrain, one that is both obscuring and an obstacle, one that a higher level Stormfront can reanimate. Interesting. But think of all the loot. No, really, check these out and think about them. Storm Shield, is that? No, your mind's playing tricks on you. Oh, well, you know what? I think the Stormfront might actually be in the very first image up top here. This might be a defeated Stormfront. Yeah, that does look kind of like a bird skull there, for example, and it seems kind of stormy. So my guess is this is probably Carcassel for the Stymphalian Stormfront. And part of that is also just based on like this art is very similar to that. Stymphalium Stormfronts. Okay, so 2 dice, -1 to hit, a black dice, which is always good, +1 potential. Opening 2, spend a fate to block 1, which is good. ATO Slayer. When you attack the Stormfront, discard a use to gain a potential. Scratch, I can't remember the chance, whatever it's called. Shield, Bone, Flesh, cool. Stormfront Ash. Even in death, the monster stirs. 2 uses. Pursuit 2, so you can chase the monster. Just to spend a fate to do so. Very cool. Whirlwind Mace, a poor simulacrum of the divine fulgurite shape. 3 dice to hits, +4. Wow. 1 red dice, overbreak 2. So if you get over the AT by 2, you daze it. Whatever, I don't actually know what daze means. And then ATO Slayer. ATO Slayer is a fun play on words of ATO too. When you attack the Stormfront, discard a use to gain a scratch. Storm Sword, fossilized Stormfront flesh takes the most wicked shapes. Very, very cool. This motif looks awesome. So 1 dice, +2 to hit, 3 reds. Savage, power reroll 1. That sounds pretty awesome. Griff Bow. It is said the ancient Hyborians fashioned these bones from white griffin bones. Fashioned these bows from white griffin bones. That's probably a typo. 3 dice, +2, 1 reds. Ranged 3 to 5. Break 2, cumbersome. Break 2 is really good. ATO Slayer again. Oh, what is this? Stymphalium Fireworks. The alchemists of Stymphalia pale in comparison to their eastern brothers. Nevertheless, this is a support gear. 2 uses. Spend a fate to daze. If your is over 9, spend a fate, and 2 uses to place a -1 AT token in the creator's pool. Cool. Storm Runner. What is that? You know what the most bizarre thing about the Stymphalium Stormfront is? Sometimes a part of it separates for good and doesn't want to return to the fold. It yearns to be freed. This yearning will be represented in multiple ways, but the most obvious one comes in the shape of the Stormrunner Small Primordial. We call them quarries now to make them easier to differentiate. The Stormrunner flock can appear on the journey map, and if you manage to thin it out, a straggler may appear during a Stormfront battle. It's a good distraction for the Primordial, but if you manage to get to it first and deal a lucky blow, you might net yourself a Titan Steed. Well, that's really cool. Horned Raptor Miniature. I think this one might be new, which they mentioned a few updates ago, adding some more of these little mini Titans, or Primordials, or quarries as you're calling them now. By the way, last time we showed you some of the new small Primordials. Now's the time to show one of their miniatures, the Horned Raptor, the second quarry that can appear during a Stymphalian Stormfront battle. These were once the holy birds of Artemis, and now they are wild and prey on helpless villagers. That sculpt looks sweet. Cool. Also, just that Marcin said that this is like a small in-between update while he's on holiday is nuts. There's so much stuff here. Okay, Boss Tiers explained. That bird is really cool. So we're at the point in game development where we need to talk about boss tiers. It's quite simple, an extension of the ATO timeline boss adversary primordial division of old. The threat primordials, excuse me, I just need a quick drink of water here. My words are getting all slurred together. The threat primordials are your bread and butter enemies. Stand in for the timeline primordials from ATO. Remember, there's no timeline here. They all share a single evolution track, this time divided into 3 rows instead of 2. Note, some of them may be stronger than others, even leading into the next power level. Quarries are small primordials that under specific circumstances will show up during these threat battles, and sometimes adversary battles, as is the case with Orthros. Adversaries are those primordials that follow you around the map and that you are initially ill-equipped to face. Really cool mechanic. These are your Hemesian pursuers and are your Orthroses. The rules for these spawn and movement on the journey map are very similar to what you experienced in ATO, though there's a new wrinkle to add to their introduction and phasing out. Each season comes with their own adversary. If you don't kill an adversary for good in a given season, they will follow you into the next one. Sweet. So far, ATO. So yeah, similar. However, unlike ATO, once you kill an adversary, the next one is not introduced right away, only when it is season appropriate. And that is because Sins of Heracles has an enemy 1 rank higher than your adversary, the Nemesis. Nemesis spawns are much rarer and much more deadly. Similarly to adversaries, once spawned, they will hound you on the map, but unlike them, they will not follow you into the next season. This means that their final showdowns are missable. Of course, if you're a masochist, you might add additional nemesi, nemesis, like the ATO to ATOSOH, straddling Doom of Pythagora. That was a mouthful. So what about bosses, you ask? Is one of the threat primordials the big bad of the season? Is it the adversary? Is it the nemesis? Nope. Sins of Heracles will have unique boss encounters in each of its regions, so at least 3 per season. These will be akin to special encounters with adversaries, like that of the Burden or the Dahaka, a battle with new, surprising rules and traits. Oh, and the primordial will be at a much higher level than the 1 to 4 you're accustomed to. Well, that's pretty wild, because level 4s are pretty challenging. This leaves the incursion primordials, which is a catch-all term for ATO primordials in Sins of Heracles and Sins of Heracles primordials in ATO. Depending on the particular primordial, they might pose a threat/timeline power level challenge, your Hectons, an adversary level challenge, your Hermesian Pursuer, or a boss level challenge, your Temenoses. These primordials occupy a niche of their own because their introduction and spawns are governed by a different set of rules, and because the main power curve does not account for them. Usually, they make the game slightly harder, but in certain cases, they may make it easier if you manage to nab a crucial piece of gear, for example. This will be handled by the World Tenancy System, of which I wrote some time ago and will write again in the near future. Is that all? Maybe. I don't know what's going on in this picture, but it is pretty wild. This looks... Oh, you know what? I think this is another photo from the Stormfront. Probably like a big art of the Stormfronts. Probably the art of the Stormfront encounter from the Roebuck is my guess. Because this looks Stormfront adjacent. There's multiple Titans getting smacked by it. So that's probably what that is. Kingdoms Forlorn now in the final stages of production. Just touched on this recently. The unboxing video is super sweet. Definitely check it out. And good old photos of Marcin with pictures in China. Ooh. Online store news and sneak peek. New online store limited releases are almost here. I'm not committing to a launch date yet. I want to have everything ready for shipping first. Which is probably for the best. I think some folks were frustrated by how long it was taking to get the stuff from the store, so having a whole big backlog of stock sounds good. I want to have everything for shipping, but I wanted to share some tasty images of the Delphina Dreamwalkers, of the limited Nietzschean harking back to the old sculpt from way back, of the Pollution Dragon, more accurately called the Noisoi Dragon. This comes with a new sheet, and it can replace some of your Cycle 4 Metascore battles. That's interesting. Delphian Solon looks awesome. Disco Bolus. 2 dice, -1 to hit. A white die, which is wild. It's purple, so it's meant to be like Cycle 3. Delphinian, yeah, so Cycle 3, that makes sense. Wild looking gear. Super cool. Delphinian Ulyssia. A sundial shield, love it. Sunset, a sword, 1 dice, +1 to hit. Red, white, that's wild. Yeah, those are really cool. Oh, that's also really cool. Awesome. 1 sec here. Yeah, I've got someone at the door, so I'm going to need to jet. So just scrolling through these last pieces quick. Unreleased minis, what to do. Yeah, I don't know. I like that one more. Old Air Sculpt. Beard Nymph is hilarious. Reacher, also hilarious. I mean, you should probably come to the store is what makes the most sense. But there's a poll, so we'll fill that in too. But anyways, I got to dash. Someone's at the door. Much love, and we'll catch you next time. Bye!